Hey, hi. Thanks a lot, Ganesh, for joining. Vanakkam. So first of all, welcome. Vanakkam is welcome in Tamil, which is the language that we both speak. So glad to have you here, Ganesh, to speak about Ganesh. Ganesh is my inspiration. One of the reasons, in fact, the first reason to start bitsCrunch, he made the very first angel check when I was in the delivery ward for my wife, and I'm glad to have my mentor, my well-wisher, my angel, in fact, the angel, guardian angel who started bitsCrunch. Glad to have you here on our pod, the Web3 Vision Podcast. This is Vijay, founder and CEO of bitsCrunch. And here we have Ganesh, who is the founder of Covalent. And yeah, over to you, Ganesh. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Vijay. These are very, very kind words. Really appreciate it and excited to see all the growth that has happened on the bitsCrunch side since 2020 when you first reached out to me. So I think this is a long journey, and I think the journey is just about to start. So very, very excited to be on this pod. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Ganesh. So I just want to start with asking the usual questions that goes on live for every pod. So what sparked your interest in Web3? And then what are the challenges you came across while switching from Web2 to Web3, right? I mean, I had a similar journey to yours. I started with Volkswagen and Siemens. And then if I look at your graph, you have a similar graph, right? Like you started in the Web2 industry, built a few companies before starting venturing into Covalent. So walk us through your journey, Ganesh.
Sure. So I started as a physical chemist doing cancer drug research. And so that's where I spent the first maybe half of my career. And that was a great ride, not related to IT or not related to tech or Web3 or none of this stuff. And then I pivoted out of that industry because the life cycle for someone in biotech is about 15 to 20 years before your product gets out to the market. And most of my friends in tech were starting companies and getting funded and going through some kind of like acquisition in 18 months or 2 years. And I was missing that fast pace. So I pivoted out and moved to the Web2 space. And that's when cloud data warehouses were becoming popular. So for about a decade before Covalent, I was doing data infrastructure for traditional Web2 companies. So mostly moving on-prem workloads onto the cloud. And this is the rise of databases like Snowflake, for example, and just using the cloud native architecture to scale. And the Covalent story was quite accidental. So I would say it's a broad stroke of luck, honestly. And a friend of mine was saying, "Hey, you should check out this database hackathon. Blockchains are like databases. Maybe there's something here." And so I live in Vancouver. Vancouver rains a lot. And one Saturday, it was raining. I didn't know what to do. So I just went to this hackathon with a couple of friends and just simply built out this connector. All you can do is pull out blockchain transactions into Excel, so like a middleware. And that hackathon project ended up winning the top prize. And then at that point, it's like, should we start a company around this? What should we do with this? And then we decided to go to market. Now, there's a lot of like uh, challenges that we faced since then. Maybe the first challenge you should consider is that before you start a company, you should first check if there's a market. And if there's no market, then the timing is probably wrong. And so I got the timing completely wrong. And this was late. This is late 2017, early 2018, thereabouts, and that's when the ICO boom was dying out. So we started this company, called it Covalent after covalent bonds. So covalent bonds is a special type of chemical bond. Here you're binding databases and blockchains, or centralized systems and decentralized systems, or Web2 and Web3. So it's that kind of analogy. And 2018, 2019, early 2020, there was no traction, no revenue, no customers, nothing. We just built this product which nobody cares about. So if you can, I can advise you on a lot of things, but if I advise you on timing the market, please do not take my advice, because it'll be the exact opposite of what you should do, because I've gotten this completely wrong all the time. So I'll jump into some of the other, tactical and, I would say, spiritual answers to that you need to seek in order to face this adversity. But that is the genesis story of Covalent. And so that's how we started. We were one of the OG projects out in the space, and we've just been building. Never took a day off. Never shifted our focus. And the core idea that we were building back then continues to be the core idea today. So there's nothing has changed in the last couple of years. So that's like the genesis story, and then we can delve into other topics.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've been watching you in close quarters. Like I mentioned earlier, I got in touch, I believe, before your coinless sale, or
Yeah.
after your coinless sale. That's when I got in touch with you in 2020. I wanted to congratulate you because as soon as I read the name, I spotted that you're a Tamilian. Of course, you come from India, right? I reached out to you, and surprisingly, you responded back within 24-48 hours, and that energy is still with you, right, Ganesh? I'm really blessed to have you, because you started that spark, right, for bitsCrunch, and what we did was something that you are really proud of, right? We did coinless sale after exactly 4 years. We did a sale on December 2024. So what more can a student, or can a mentee give it back to a mentor, right? So thanks for inspiring me and many other founders in the space. And like you said, you are one of the OG projects, one of the really good projects that we inspire from, and we look at while building. And I've always, time and again, come to you for help, advices, and mentorship. So kudos to you and your entire team. So, moving on to the next question, for viewers who are listening, uh, could you please explain more about the vision that you have for Covalent, right? I mean, Covalent, you want to bring more transparency into the blockchain, right? Into the blockchain jungle, I would say. Could you please walk us through what you are building, and what is the biggest vision that you have in mind in store?
So the best way to understand our futuristic vision is consider the world in a couple of years, let's say 10 years from now. And what we believe is there's going to be a multitude of blockchain networks out there: L1, L2, rollups, Validiums, all kinds of systems. So we believe in this future where everything is on chain. And this future with a multi-chain kind of system architecture is validated from the database world where I come from. So in the database world, there is over 500 databases, because needs are different. You have key value store databases, you have graph databases, you have time series databases, you have analytical databases, you have transaction databases. So the same way on blockchains, you're going to have different security requirements. Needs are diverse. You cannot have one size fits all. Now, the core problem is that your data and your assets are going to be fragmented across all of these disparate systems. So the Covalent vision is to build a unified data layer for all of these blockchains. And we only do on-chain data. We don't do anything off-chain, just entirely on-chain, and provide complete visibility and transparency for all of this data. And our belief is that a lot of the focus has been on scaling the right aspect of blockchains, because you see all these blockchains, they're thumping the chest and say we get like 5,000 transactions per second, 10,000 transactions per second. It just keeps going like crazy, right? But nobody's really thinking about how can you read this data back. And I would say the premise of blockchains, where you have transparent, you have an immutable ledger, falls apart if what you write to the blockchain cannot be read back in a convenient format. So that's really what our vision is, to provide complete visibility and transparency for all on-chain data and assets. Now, paired with the vision is a mission statement, and that's really why we show up to work every day. So here in Vancouver, when we're recording this, it's before 9 a.m., right? So I and a couple of people have been on a Friday in the office at 7:30. Why is that, right? Why are we grinding so hard? So our mission is to empower the pioneers of tomorrow to build the tooling for the next generation of applications, consumer and enterprise applications. Because the blockchain space today is still a early majority, I would say, an innovators market. So if you're familiar with Christensen's market segmentation, it goes through an S curve where you have early adopters, you have innovators, early majority, and then finally late majority. And any technology adoption curve goes through that cycle. And it's the same with the internet. It's the same with cell phones. It's the same with blockchain technologies. And so we're still in that early stage. So the people we empower today, they're in it with their heart. They're not in from a commercial aspect. So you have to win the hearts and the minds of these pioneers, because they're building the future. A lot of the stuff that a lot of the customers that we have, a lot of the partners we partner with are building things that have never been seen before. So we want to empower them. We want to provide the tooling for them. And if we help them succeed in whatever vision they have, then we will automatically succeed just by being the picks and shovels in a gold rush kind of like idea. So that's essentially what we've designed. That has been our rallying cry from day one. And that is why we're working so hard, no matter whether it's a bear market or a bull market.
Yep, well said. I mean, that's one of the really good qualities that I see in you as well as the team, right? I mean, when I say I got connected to you on 2020 December, just prior to your coinless sale, and then since then I have seen the team. You have indexed what I guess countless blockchains. You have the largest blockchain repositories. Nobody can come close to what you have achieved in terms of scaling horizontally, right? So you have talked about the business here, but I would also try to understand, the network. So what could you please walk us through the Covalent network? How do you sort of make sure that it is a community driven? When it is network, obviously it involves not just a CEO or the management, but then there are n number of anonymous wallets who could dictate terms for the protocol, right? So could you please walk us through how that top down approach is now getting into the bottom up approach, where numerous participants are also part of the protocol?
Great question. So we started as a standardized SaaS company, so a centralized entity, and we do all the decision making, make all the choices, and so on. But maybe around 2020, we decided to pivot this into a protocol. So build an end-to-end vertically integrated decentralized protocol. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think by 2020, it had become clear that these big companies were starting to hoard data, and we're starting to monetize that data. If you look at Facebook and Google, just holding on to all of consumer data and monetizing that. And the kind of architecture that we need for the future is a decentralized architecture. The second thing is the privacy laws were becoming like more prevalent. So GDPR, for example, you cannot hold like EU citizens' data in the States. That's just an example of how you need to be compliant with GDPR. The third thing is that we are kind of clear that data itself, a lot of our customers were hitting multiple vendors because the data was not cryptographically secure. So you can't really rely on data corruption or data, it's not always malicious corruption. It could be accidental corruption as well, right? So you need the cryptographic guarantees behind that data. So all of these things were reasons for us to build a end-to-end decentralized protocol. So what Covalent Network does today is it's a set of about 30 operators who are running specialized aspects of the blockchain cleansing and extraction process. And every action that they do on the blockchain data has a cryptographic proof beside it. And so it basically has a ledger of data provenance. Like every transformation is backed by a proof, which means that if there's any corruption, you can trace it back into what the root cause is. And this kind of architecture, we envisioned this about 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago now, built it out, and the first version shipped about 2 years ago. So the Covalent network has been live producing proofs for the last 2.5 years. And there's about 30, 40 operators across the different roles, and they partake in this. So there's no real like company that runs this infrastructure. And because it's all cryptographically secure, that's the only way to ensure that you have the consensus that this data is secure. Because if the data is not accurate, then all of the downstream applications, like think, for example, your P&L, if you need to do your taxes, you have to trust that the data is correct. If you're using AI models and you're using the structured data to train that data, what if there's some kind of like bias that was introduced, right? Or data corruption or anything nefarious. Lots of use cases where this kind of security is required. The closest analogy I would think is you have champagne that comes from the region of Champagne, but everything else is called sparkling wine. So at some point, the regulators and the consumers will ask for this high quality, cryptographically secure data. And that is what we're building with the Covalent network.
Beautiful comparison. Wonderful example with champagne and sparkling wine. So let's say I'm a developer. Right? I'm a dev. I have questions regarding how to get into this blockchain jungle. So as a dev, I'm curious. Let's say if there is a dev sitting somewhere in Asia, Africa, or somewhere, how easy it is for someone to get started with Covalent API. And I love the tagline, right? One API for 1 billion possibilities. So could you please walk us through how easy you guys have made the access of data so that devs or people who want to build on blockchain can get that wonderful piece of info from you?
So what the Covalent network outputs is structured data. So structured data means you take all of the raw data, you schematize that into a canonical schema. So we have over 225 blockchains supported today across mainnets and testnets. And what that means is that the schema for every single blockchain is exactly the same. So if you want to move from Optimism to Polygon to Avalanche to Phantom to Base to any of the 200 plus chains, you change one character and everything just works, right? So it takes out that cognitive load behind a developer who needs to understand the nuances between base data versus optimism data versus Polygon data versus Phantom data. They're all exactly the same. So that is one kind of like usability feature we've added. The second thing is we've bundled these endpoints into the most common use cases. So anything around balances. So balances would include token transfers. It would include like wallet balances, historical wallet balances, spot prices, P&L, all of that stuff, portfolio viewers, so on. So that's an example of set of API endpoints that allows this. The second is like the NFT data. So this is, we've crawled all of the NFT assets, the NFT metadata, and we've schematized that, and that's just an example. Third would be like transactions. So we have the best transaction data on the planet, and this is why we have lots of enterprise customers. So here you can get the transaction for any wallet, for any of these blockchains from the Genesis block. So that's how powerful this is. And it's a very scalable kind of system. So we have customers like taking in like hundreds of millions of transactions, and it just works. So those are the kinds of like suite of products that we offer on the API side. But the key thing I want to highlight here is that the decentralized network builds something called the Covalent database. And the Covalent database enables a lot of use cases. You can slice and dice this Covalent database in any format. So the Covalent database, the unified API, is an example of a use case on the database where the APIs are just prepackaged queries on the database. We also have a second product called Increment, which is like a BI dashboarding product where you can type SQL and get charts. So that's an example of another use case. We have a new Block Explorer product called Gold Rush, which is more of a retail focus, but it's just a different view on the same Covalent database. So that is fundamentally how all of this sits down. The Covalent network comes in with your structured, verifiable data, and the Covalent database is built. And from the Covalent database, you have all of these downstream products that have thousands of customers and tens of thousands of developers like just consuming all of that data.
So you have talked about so how simplified the API is, right? I mean, you have talked about how somebody could just use SQL to grab the data, right? And you have mentioned about Gold Rush and all the other things here. And I would like to also know about the Ethereum Wayback Machine. So what exactly is that? Could you please walk us through? Because that caught my attention in recent times. Maybe I would love the listeners to also get to know about it.
So one of the key things about blockchains, or maybe one of the biggest misconceptions of blockchains, is that blockchains are not databases. They're actually billboards. So what does that mean exactly? So what that means is that in a billboard, you post a piece of information, and then after the day is done or the week is done, you take it down. You just delete it, and then you post the next thing. So in blockchains, what's happening now, this wasn't the case previously, but definitely in the last 2 years, you post your data and then you wait for challenges, fraud proofs to show that there's some kind of like corruption in the data. And once that challenge window is done, you eject that data. You don't care about it anymore. So that helps blockchains become more scalable. So if you see what is happening with, let's say, the Deccan upgrade on Ethereum, the blobs basically split the gas fee market. So you have general call data, which is on-chain data availability, and then you have blobs, and then you can also put your transactions on a DLA like Celestia or EigenDA or Avail. But all of those systems, they delete the data after a couple of weeks. So with the blobs, for example, it's 4,000 epochs, so about 18 days, and then the blobs are deleted. If you look at a DA layer like Celestia, it's about 2 weeks. If you look at EigenDA, it's the same thing because you can't provide that security. The security of the DA layer needs to be the security of the L1, and you cannot offer that security forever. So you only offer that security for the challenge window, and post the challenge window, it's just gone. So that is essentially the key problem statement, that if you do not have a decentralized protocol or a method to access historical data, then you're going to have centralized, someone who's just going to dump it into a database on S3 or something. And suddenly Ethereum itself becomes centralized. Yeah, sure. You're able to write from a decentralized network, but reading becomes like challenging. And that goes back to the core problem that we're trying to solve, right? Like if it's centralized, then you can't trust it. So we're solving that problem. So here, this is where this new machinery is introduced by us called the Ethereum Wayback Machine. We wrote the white paper last fall, and the reception was crazy. There's like so much excitement around it. And so we just doubled down on that. So the Ethereum Wayback Machine, the testnet should be out in a couple of months, and it's this machinery that keeps all historical data, structured historical data, around for you to query and introspect.
Oh, nice. That's really exciting. Looking forward to that, to get my hands on. And talking about the business, the protocol, and the initiatives, and then like I mentioned, you have inspired so many founders like myself, right? And then talk us through the tough times while building Covalent network, right? I've personally seen challenging situations that you have been put across, right? I've seen you go through FTX fiasco, or be it the bridge hack. how, as a founder, you tackle these challenging situations, and you stand up taller, and even be the strongest from the shallows. Could you please walk us through those tough situations, Ganesh?
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I think it's a muscle you can build for sure, right? I think being able to be resilient in the face of adversity, being able to be calm in a crisis moment, is definitely I would say a skill and a muscle you can build. And I think it comes down to the conviction you have in this space. And I would say you can see similar patterns with other kinds of professions as well, right? You can see a day trader versus an investor, right? A day trader, there's a like a 10% drop. This It's like hit the panic button, hit the sell button, right? Let's go. I want to get out. But an investor is like, yeah, it's day to day. It's like whatever. Let's focus on the mission. Let's focus on the long term. So I think you just have to hang out with people who are more long-term, mission-oriented people as opposed to the short-term, pump and dump or mercenary traders. And so any kind of like, I would say, shakeout is like a test of your faith, if you want to call it that. And so over the last couple of years, we've had some near death experiences. And I would say that has actually made us stronger. It has brought us closer to our supporters, our community. It's actually strengthened our resolve because you've gone through all of these pain points. And if you don't make something big out of it, then it's kind of like pointless, right? And I always think about this acquisition offer we got from Coinbase before the CoinList sale, and how I could have taken that, and I would have been like financially like pretty well off. Of course, I'll be like working as a middle manager at Coinbase. That's a different thing, but I don't need to take any of this risk, and that could have been an option back then. And so all of this has to be like worth it, which means you have to work harder and you have to double down, right? So yeah, a couple of things happened in the last couple of years, which is quite challenging. So maybe the biggest episode was the Nomad Bridge hack. So CKT, which is our token, was settling, the Covalent network was settling on Moonbeam, which is a Polkadot parachain. And to get it on Moonbeam, you had to use Nomad, which is a bridge, to get the synthetic exposure or the synthetic wrapped version on Moonbeam. And this bridge was brand new. We were the first big customer, but it was widely adopted by the Polkadot ecosystem. So Moonbeam, all of their stables were like bridged across using Nomad. And then there was a Nomad hack, which was about $200 million, and that included multiple assets, USDC, CKT, and so on. I think CKT was the second biggest asset after the stables, and 10% of our entire supply got stolen. So the way the bridge works is that you put the collateral on Ethereum side, and then you get this wrapped version on the Moonbeam side, and the collateral on the ETH side got stolen. So all the CKT on the Moonbeam side had no backing, and so this just devastated our community. And we did every step along the way. We did what was right for the community. The first thing we did is we did a buyback program or a refund program. So everyone who was impacted, everyone who lost their assets in the attack, we paid them out from the treasury. So the entire 10% came from the treasury, and I think that put us in a difficult spot, but it was the right thing to do. And given any other set of circumstances, I would have done the exact same kind of ideas. And you can see with our community back, they very much appreciated that. The second thing is like we have a strong fallback program with removing bridge dependency. So it's taken us about a year and a half or so to do that. But basically, we re-engineered the whole thing to ensure that there's no bridging required. So, we changed our architecture, our security architecture, to make it super clean. And that whole migration process happened at the end of April. So about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And I'm very proud to say, as of yesterday, the traction on the Ethereum staking program is more than the traction on the Moonbeam, all-time high Moonbeam. So what that means is that the adoption, the UX issues, the security issues, all have been resolved. on the Ethereum side. So that's another example of adversity, a very difficult situation where it was clear what the right decision was, but you had to have the courage to make that choice, even though it would hurt you in the short term. And then, the other situation was the FTX situation. So CKT was trading on FTX a couple of years ago. And when FTX filed for bankruptcy, that CKT pocket, it's about 2% of the supply, went through the FTX estate. And we got in touch with the estate and tried to buy back the CKT and so on. But ultimately, they chose to sell the entire basket of assets, about 150 different tokens, about $300 million, to a single buyer. And that buyer didn't care about any of the other assets and just started dumping on the market. So it dramatically impacted the price of CKT. And, we had built this community back from the ground up after the Nomad Bridge hack. And then these guys were going in and destroying everything they had built. And so I had just come back from Dubai after a month-long trip to Hong Kong and Shanghai and Hangzhou and Dubai with the floods and all that. It was like quite taxing. I'd come back, and then I believe you were also not able to make it to Dubai because of the flooding and so on. Anyway, so I come back, and Dubai to Seattle is a pretty long flight. I think it's a 16-hour flight. So I was out of it. I'd come back on a Sunday, and Monday morning, I'm like, oh man, the price is like getting crushed. The sentiment is very poor. So I had to take immediate action, and then we figured out who it was a joint venture. You don't really know who it is. Anyways, did our due diligence, walk through the things, and then wrap that whole thing up by Tuesday. So within 48 hours, we bought back that entire thing there. So I think, now it's like you should expect that they're bad actors. You should expect that they're sharks in the water. You should expect that you're going into a very P2P environment, and you have people who are trading against you, who are betting on your failure. And so you should use all of that to fuel your, I would say, conviction or your gumption about, the direction you're going. And you have to make sure that, as a leader, that you are able to show the courage and the strength so that your team is not led astray as well, because there are lots of other opportunities out there. So you have to, time is not fungible. So the next, I would say, like 12 months to 15 months, the investments that you make on the product, on the go-to-market, you cannot do this like 6 months from now, right? Because time is not fungible. So you have to be very, very precise in your focus and your capital allocation and your resource allocation. So yeah, that's lots of other challenges in terms of like fundraising. I think it's part of the game, right? I think it's a very financialized system. There's a lot of short-term players, so you have to always check your due diligence. You always have to make sure you align yourself with people who want this. There's nothing wrong with speculation. There's nothing wrong with short-term. There's nothing wrong with traders. Is it what you want for your project? That's what it comes down to. And it's just a misfit. There's nothing wrong or right about it. It's just not a match.
Yeah, absolutely inspiring, Ganesh. I mean, I've taken a lot of cues from you, a lot of support from you in crafting our own cap table. Right, we have got a lot of common investors on the cap table. For instance, Coinbase Ventures backing both of the data projects, and I mean, even while starting, we started as an NFT protocol, and then we sort of now pivoting into the broader ecosystem where we want to do the forensics. So, very big thanks and kudos to your resilient nature. That is inspiring a lot of people. So, thanks a lot for sharing these experiences, which we cannot hear in a lot of other places, right? So thanks for that. So, one last question before we wind up, maybe. Could you please talk about the new Dawn initiatives? Because I never miss a single email that comes from you. So I always look for these lovely phrases and the gold rush, for instance, the Wayback Mission. So you guys uh, put that uh, put a right tagline or wording for every single thing that you build. So what are the new initiatives that we can expect from Covalent in the next 3 to 6 months?
So, we took a very clinical approach to how to grow the network and how to grow the community, how to double down on initiatives for the community, token utility, and so on. And we came up with these list of like big changes that I would say a couple of years into a project's life cycle are tough to make. But we decided that this is what is required to build for the future. So the first thing with the new dawn is the migration back to Ethereum. And this took about a year's worth of R&D and audits and all kinds of things. And that went out late April. And I think I just shared that the traction on the Ethereum side is now bigger than the Moonbeam side, all-time high ever. So I think about 12% of the supply is staked. So the new dawn is it's a bundled set of initiatives that are technical, economical, and governance changes to position for the next 100x growth ahead of us. Because I truly believe like Covalent has another 100x ahead in the next couple of years. So on the technical side is the moving the Ethereum, moving back to Ethereum from Moonbeam. So it makes it better from a UX perspective, better from a security perspective, and clearly you can look at the contracts. You can see like people coming in with $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Right? It's just like it's like very organic in terms of adoption. So it's really great to see that the community values this, right? It's not like some of the other protocols. It's just a couple of whales coming in and playing with the protocol. Then on the economic side, our target for this phase is 20% of the network staked. So for the listeners who have CKT, if you're not staking, please go stake it. The yields are pretty juicy right now. I think it's about 20% APY. Our goal is to hit 12% APY at 20% of the network staked. So that is the target there. So we have all the economic incentives in place to achieve that. So you can see that people are definitely appreciating that, and it's gone to about 12%. So there's another 8% remaining, but it'll stabilize around 12% APY when you hit 20% of the network stake. So that's what's happening on the economic side. And on the governance side, more decentralization, more in control of the community, more on the voting side, on the snapshot side. So we fixed some issues where you are not able to participate in snapshot if you had staked your CKT, which is a big miss on our side. So the strongest supporters of the projects are left disenfranchised, which was a mistake. So we fixed that now. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing. So there's more coming down the pipe. We have tons of big announcements coming down the pipe. We have this new light client architecture. We're calling them Olympic light clients. So right now, to run a Covalent as an operator, you need dedicated hardware, dedicated like DevOps people. It's quite expensive. You need to also get, I believe, 175,000 CKT. It's about 50 grand. So it's very expensive. It's a big ask. So we are coming up with this architecture where you can run a Covalent, basically a validator on your phone or on your laptop. And the buy-in is like $100 or $200, right? So super straightforward. So we're trying to gamify this whole thing, and there'll be a big announcement around that. I would say later this summer, and then just more and more like token utility, like DeFi strategies, listings, all the same kind of like stories, but we've like really focused on just growth as opposed to building the product, which is what we were building for the last couple of years, right? Just focus on the technology. Now it's time to go out to market and spread the word.
Wonderful, Ganesh. I mean, excellent energy right throughout. We are about to hit 40 minutes, and I didn't even realize that we are into an amazing journey of Covalent. Thanks a lot for sharing your aura, your energy. Because whoever I talk to, I tell that Ganesh has an aura, right? I mean, you whenever you speak, whenever you carry that aura with you, you carry that momentum, and I hope the listeners have also witnessed that over this wonderful pod. Maybe a quick couple of rapid fire questions. With that, I'll let you go. So the first one would be, what is your favorite activity? What is your hobby or a favorite activity that you do in your free time?
I really like spending time in nature.
Mhm.
So hikes and big adventure. I'm a big big adventure guy. So I've done Mount Everest base camp. I've biked from Bangkok to Cambodia on a bicycle. I've
Ooh,
done Machu Picchu. So I'm a big nature guy, and that's my best way to unwind, totally disconnect from all technology, all like civilization, and just like focus on that. So that's my favorite activity.
nice, nice. And then talking about your favorite city, what would that be? And no cities from Canada, please.
Yeah, I would say, I love multicultural, dynamic cities, 100%. I would say some of my favorite cities are New York, Hong Kong, and Chennai. So these are my top three cities. If I were ever, have an opportunity to settle down outside of Vancouver, which is where home is, it would be these one of these three cities.
Coincidentally, I am sitting in Adayar, Chennai right now.
Nice,
And yeah,
amazing.
it's around 10 o'clock in the evening here. So cool. And one last question. So who is your inspiration, or what is your inspiration? Maybe it could be a thing, it could be a person. We would love to know that.
I would say in the blockchain space, it would be Sandeep. And Sandeep is one of the founders of Polygon. And when Covalent was not a thing, we were really struggling from product adoption, narrative. No one understood what this data indexer was. No money. We had bootstrapped Covalent for the first couple of years. And I go to these conferences, and a lot of people said, "Hey, why don't you just give up and go get a job?" I have lots of, like, especially investors. They would say, "Yeah, go get a job. You're a smart guy. You have a smart team, and our portco is hiring, so I can make some connects." And but there's only one guy who said, solve your money problem and everything else will like fix itself. And he laid it out in a very clear kind of like format. And that person was Sandeep. And so Sandeep was the first check into Covalent before Covalent even had a company. And this is before Matic was still, I think, 2 cents, right? So it's not like the Sandeep today, where it's a multi-billion-dollar like network. So whatever little money he had, he put it into Covalent, into me, really, because he believed in us. And so that shows his true character. Right now, maybe it's all like, maybe not, I don't know, but back then, that's who he is, right? And so I can never forget that. And yeah, I think it's for many reasons he is the person who made Covalent. He's the reason Covalent is around, right? So I would say he's my top guy forever. Like, even I saw him in Denver. It's unfortunately now, our paths don't cross as much, but I saw him in Denver. He was having dinner with a couple of investors, and I was having dinner with my team. And then I saw him. I went and he went and said hello to him, and then he's a big personality now, but he still like hugged me and he said, give me a call whenever you want. I want to like figure out what's going on with Covalent and so on. So I would say that's it's pretty awesome to see even today, right? He's still hustling, right?
Yeah.
Why? So it's not money, it's not fame, because he has plenty of all that stuff. I think it's more than that, and then you can't really put a price on it, or you can't put a dollar amount on it. So I think that kind of like personality is truly inspirational, right? It inspires me to come to work every day and hustle hard.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, thanks for this story as well. I mean, Sandeep, every I guess every two-third of Indians in crypto. They're very well aware of Sandeep, and not just India, but he's a global figure, and people would be amazed to hear such a backstory that links with Covalent. So thanks a lot. Thanks again for taking your time to be on this wonderful pod, and you can expect wonderful clippings from the team. And yeah, any last thoughts for the community, for builders building in the space? Do you want to share something?
Work on something you believe in. And so I would say, if I think failure is part of the course, right? You're trying something new, you're taking risks. Failure will happen once in a while, but fail on your own terms, which is work on a idea in an
Mhm.
industry with a
Mhm.
set of people you want to work with. And if you fail, I think it's okay. But if you work on something you don't like, you don't believe in, you're doing it for, I don't know what it is, for fame, for money, whatever it is, and you fail, I don't think you can live with yourself. So I would say that's, yeah, fail on your own terms. Well,
Excellent.
ideally you fail. Ideally, you thrive and you succeed. And I wish that to everyone, because I believe in like the unbounded upside. But yeah, no, do it in your own terms.
It's lovely, Ganesh. It was a pleasure having you on the pod, and thanks again for supporting bitsCrunch. And as you rightly mentioned, the community can expect a lot more things, even 100x growth in terms of potential. That I strongly believe. I always root for you and Covalent Network. So yeah, you can expect a lot more crunches to also join the Covalent army soon. Thanks a lot.
Amazing. All right, Vijay, wish you all the best for bitsCrunch, and super, super, super happy to see all the growth over the last couple of years. So I wish you the very best, and the bitsCrunch community.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.